My name is Bessie Thompson, and I'm 68 years old. I raised my son Eugene alone after his father died when Eugene was only 5 years old. I worked 2 jobs, sacrificed everything, and gave him every opportunity I could afford. Eugene is now 43 years old. And last night, my own son, the boy I raised, the man I sacrificed everything for, hit me. He didn't just push me, he didn't just shove me aside in anger. He hit me. His fist connected with my face, snapping my head to the side. I fell against the kitchen counter, pain exploding through my cheek and jaw. I stood there, stunned, my hand pressed against my face, tasting blood in my mouth. My son stood across from me, breathing heavily, his fist still clenched, looking at me with eyes full of rage. "That's what you get for disrespecting me in my own house," Eugene shouted. His own house. The house I'd lived in for 40 years. The house I'd paid off working 2 jobs. The house he'd moved into 3 years ago after losing his apartment. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The shock was too overwhelming. My own son had just hit me. Eugene stormed out of the kitchen. I heard his bedroom door slam, and I stood there alone, blood on my lip, my face throbbing, wondering how we'd gotten to this point. But I knew, deep down, I knew exactly how we'd gotten here, because this hadn't started last night. This had been building for years. And that morning, the morning after my son hit me, I made a decision that would change both our lives forever. I got up at 6 a.m. just like always. I went to the kitchen just like always, and I made breakfast just like always. But what I served Eugene that morning wasn't just breakfast. It was a message, a lesson, a moment that would force him to confront what he'd become. And when he saw what I'd done, when he understood what that breakfast meant, everything changed. But to understand why that breakfast mattered so much, why it had the power to transform our entire relationship, I need to take you back to the beginning. To show you how a loving mother and a sweet little boy became 2 people who'd reached such a breaking point that violence entered our home. I was 28 years old when my husband Walter Thompson died in a construction accident. Eugene was only 5. We were living in a small apartment in Atlanta, struggling to make ends meet even with Walter's income. After Walter died, I was left alone with a 5-year-old son, no college degree, and almost no savings. I could have given up. I could have moved back in with my parents and accepted their constant judgment about my life choices. I could have remarried quickly just for financial security. But I didn't, because I'd made a promise to Eugene the day Walter died. "Baby, I know you're scared," I'd told 5-year-old Eugene as he cried at his father's funeral. "I'm scared too, but I promise you I will take care of you. I will give you everything you need. You will never lack for anything." And I kept that promise, even when it nearly broke me. I got 2 jobs, one as a housekeeper during the day, one as a waitress at night. I worked 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I was exhausted constantly, but Eugene never went without food, clothes, or school supplies. When Eugene was 7, he came home crying because the other kids made fun of his old shoes. "Mama, can I have new shoes?" Eugene asked. "Like the ones Marcus has." Marcus was his classmate, whose parents were lawyers. The shoes Eugene wanted cost more than I made in a week. "Baby, those shoes cost a lot of money," I explained gently. "We have to be careful with our money." "But all the kids laugh at my shoes," Eugene cried. "They say I'm poor." My heart broke, but I said, "Eugene, there's nothing wrong with being poor. What matters is working hard and being a good person." But that weekend, I picked up an extra shift and bought Eugene those shoes, because I couldn't stand seeing my baby hurt. That became the pattern. Eugene wanted something, I found a way to get it for him. Eugene needed something, I sacrificed to provide it. When Eugene was 12, he wanted to play basketball. The league fee was $200, money I didn't have, but I borrowed it from a friend and signed him up. When Eugene was 15, he wanted expensive name-brand clothes because everyone at school wore them. I worked extra hours and bought them. When Eugene was 17, he needed a car to get to his part-time job. I took out a loan I could barely afford and bought him a used car. every time I told myself, I'm giving him what I never had. I'm making sure he doesn't suffer like I did. I'm being a good mother. But looking back now, I realize I wasn't just providing for Eugene. I was teaching him that he deserved everything he wanted, that my job was to give him whatever he asked for, that his needs and wants always came first. I was creating the man who would eventually hit me. The first real warning sign came when Eugene was 16. He'd borrowed my car, the old car I drove to work, and brought it back with a dent in the side. "Eugene, what happened to my car?" I asked when I saw the damage. "Some guy hit me in the parking lot," Eugene said casually. "Not my fault." "Did you get his insurance information?" I asked. "Nah, he drove off before I could," Eugene said, not making eye contact. Something about his story didn't feel right, but I didn't push it, because confronting Eugene had become difficult. He'd grown taller than me, stronger than me, and lately when I questioned him, he'd get angry. "Why are you always accusing me of stuff?" Eugene would snap. "Why don't you ever believe me?" So I stopped asking questions. I paid to fix the dent, and I told myself it was just teenage behavior, that he'd grow out of it. The second warning sign came when Eugene was 18. I'd saved money for 3 years to help with his college expenses. Not enough for full tuition, I wasn't rich, but enough for books, supplies, and some living expenses. Eugene applied to several colleges, but didn't get into any of them. His grades were mediocre because he'd spent high school more focused on basketball and friends than studying. "What are you going to do now?" I asked gently. "I'll go to community college," Eugene said, "then transfer to a university." "That's a good plan," I encouraged. But Eugene never went to community college. He enrolled, used my saved money for school expenses, and then stopped going after 2 weeks. "The classes were boring," Eugene explained when I found out. "I wasn't learning anything useful." "But you spent all the money I saved," I protested. "I needed it," Eugene said defensively, "for gas and food and stuff." "Eugene, that money was for your education." "I'm 18, Eugene interrupted. "I can make my own decisions. Stop trying to control me." I backed down because I didn't want to fight, because I wanted to keep the peace. Because I told myself that maybe he was right. Maybe I was being too controlling. So I let it go, and Eugene learned another lesson, that he could take from me without consequence, that my money was his money, that my sacrifices were his entitlement. For the next 20 years, the pattern continued and worsened. Eugene bounced between jobs, never keeping one for more than a year or two. He'd get fired for being late, for arguing with bosses, for not showing up. But in his telling, it was never his fault. "The manager had it out for me," Eugene would explain. "They didn't appreciate my skills," he'd say. "The workplace was toxic," he'd complain. And I'd believe him, or at least I'd pretend to believe him, because it was easier than confronting the truth, that Eugene didn't want to work hard, that he expected success without effort. Eugene had relationships that never lasted. He'd date women, move in with them quickly, then things would fall apart. "She was crazy," Eugene would say after each breakup. "She had too many demands," he'd complain. "She didn't respect me," he'd explain. I'd sympathize. I'd tell him he deserved better. I'd encourage him to keep trying. I never considered that maybe the problem was Eugene, that maybe these women saw something I didn't want to see. By the time Eugene was 40, he'd had 9 different jobs, 7 failed relationships, and had been evicted from 3 apartments for not paying rent. And each time something went wrong, he came to me. "Ma, I just need a little help until I get back on my feet," Eugene would say. And I'd help. I'd give him money. I'd let him stay with me temporarily. I'd make excuses for him to my friends and church members who asked why my 40-year-old son couldn't support himself. "He's just going through a rough patch," I'd explain. "The economy is tough," I'd rationalize. "He's a good boy who's had some bad luck," I'd insist. But it wasn't bad luck. It was bad choices. And I was enabling those choices by constantly rescuing him from the consequences. 3 years ago, Eugene was evicted from his apartment for the third time. He was 40 years old, unemployed, and had nowhere to go. "Ma, I need to stay with you for a while," Eugene said on the phone, "just until I find a new place." I hesitated. I was 65, finally thinking about retirement. I'd paid off my house after 40 years of mortgage payments. I was looking forward to having peace and quiet in my old age. But he was my son. How could I say no? "Okay," I agreed. "But Eugene, this is temporary. You need to get a job and save money for your own place." "I know, Ma," Eugene promised. "I'll be out of here in a few months." That was 3 years ago. Eugene moved into my house with 2 suitcases and promises to find work quickly. But months passed with no job. He'd go to interviews occasionally, but nothing worked out. They said I was overqualified, he'd explain. They wanted someone younger, he'd justify. They weren't paying enough, he'd rationalize. Meanwhile, I was supporting both of us on my small pension and Social Security. Money was tight, but Eugene didn't seem to notice or care. He'd eat the food I bought without contributing. He'd use electricity and water without offering to pay bills. He'd leave messes that I'd clean up. "Eugene, can you help with the dishes?" I'd ask. "I'm tired, Ma," he'd say, not looking up from his phone. "Eugene, can you mow the lawn?" "I'll do it later," he'd promise, but later never came. "Eugene, can you help with groceries this week?" "I don't have any money," he'd say, even though I knew he'd bought cigarettes and beer that week. I told myself it was temporary, that soon he'd get a job and move out, that I just needed to be patient. But it never got better, it only got worse. Over the past year, Eugene's behavior had escalated from lazy and entitled to disrespectful and aggressive. He started talking to me differently. Instead of "Thanks, Ma," or "I appreciate it," I heard. "What's for dinner?" demanded, not asked. "Wash my work clothes," ordered, not requested. "I need $20, stated, not politely inquired. When I'd push back, gently, carefully, he'd get angry. "What's your problem?" Eugene would snap. "Why are you being difficult?" he'd accuse. "I'm your son," he'd shout. "You're supposed to help me." The word "supposed" bothered me, as if helping him was my obligation, not my choice, as if his 43 years of existence entitled him to my support. 6 months ago, things got physical for the first time. I'd asked Eugene to help move a heavy box. He'd refused, saying he was busy watching TV. "Eugene, I really need help," I insisted. "I can't lift it myself." "Then don't move it," Eugene shouted, standing up aggressively. "Stop nagging me." He got in my face, towering over me, using his size to intimidate. I backed away, frightened by the rage in his eyes. He didn't hit me that time, but the threat was there. The message was clear: don't push me. I should have kicked him out then. I should have called the police. I should have drawn a line. But I didn't, because he was my son, because I'd spent 40 years sacrificing for him, because I told myself it was just stress, that he'd apologize, that things would get better. Things didn't get better. 3 months ago, Eugene pushed me. We were arguing about him leaving trash all over the house. I'd asked him to clean up. He'd refused. I'd insisted. He'd gotten angry and pushed me aside to leave the room. I fell against the wall. Nothing serious, just a bruise, but it shocked me. My son had put his hands on me. "Eugene, you can't put your hands on me," I said, rubbing my shoulder. "You were in my way," Eugene said defensively. "What was I supposed to do?" "You could have asked me to move," I pointed out. "Whatever," Eugene muttered, walking away. No apology. No acknowledgement that pushing your mother is wrong. Just defensiveness and dismissal. I told myself it was an accident, that he didn't mean to hurt me, that I was making too big a deal of it. But deep down, I knew things were spiraling out of control, and I didn't know how to stop it. Last night, everything came to a head. I'd made dinner, fried chicken, rice, and greens. I'd spent 2 hours cooking. I was tired, my feet hurt, but I'd made a nice meal like I always did. Eugene came to the table and looked at the food with disgust. I don't want this, Eugene said. I wanted pizza. I already cooked this, I said. If you wanted pizza, you should have said something before I spent 2 hours cooking. You never ask what I want, Eugene complained. Eugene, I asked you this morning what you wanted for dinner, I reminded him patiently. You said whatever. Well, I changed my mind, Eugene said angrily. I want pizza now. I don't have money for pizza, I said honestly. I spent the grocery budget on the food for this meal. We'll eat what I cooked. Eugene stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. You always do this, Eugene shouted. You make everything difficult. You never consider what I want. Eugene, I consider what you want all the time, I said, trying to stay calm. But I can't afford to throw away food I already cooked to order pizza. We'll have pizza another night when I budget for it. This is my house, Eugene yelled. I should be able to eat what I want. This is my house, I corrected, my patience finally wearing thin. I've owned this house for 40 years. You moved in 3 years ago as a temporary guest, and you still haven't contributed a single dollar to bills, groceries, or anything else. That's when Eugene's face changed. The anger intensified into rage. How dare you, Eugene shouted. After everything I've been through, after all my struggles, and you're throwing that in my face. I'm not throwing anything in your face, I said, my voice rising. I'm stating facts. You're 43 years old, living rent-free in my house, eating food I buy, and complaining that I didn't order you pizza. You're disrespecting me, Eugene screamed. No, Eugene, I said firmly. I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference. That's when he hit me. His fist came fast. I didn't even have time to defend myself. The impact snapped my head to the side. I stumbled backward, crashing into the kitchen counter. Pain exploded through my face. I tasted blood. My vision blurred for a moment. When I looked up, Eugene was standing there, his fist still clenched, breathing heavily, staring at me with wild eyes. That's what you get for disrespecting me in my own house, Eugene shouted. I pressed my hand to my face, feeling my lips swelling, tasting copper in my mouth. I didn't cry, I didn't shout. I just stared at my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and felt something inside me break. Not just my heart, something deeper. Some fundamental belief I'd held about motherhood, about unconditional love, about family. I'd given this man everything, and he'd just hit me. Eugene stormed out of the kitchen. His bedroom door slammed, and I stood there alone, blood on my lip, my face throbbing, my entire world shattered. I cleaned up the dinner no one would eat. I put ice on my face. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep, replaying the moment over and over. My own son had hit me. And as I lay there in the dark, something changed inside me. Some switch flipped. Some decision was made. I'd spent 40 years enabling Eugene, 40 years making excuses, 40 years sacrificing my own well-being to protect him from consequences. And where had it gotten us? To a place where my 43-year-old son lived in my house, contributed nothing, and felt entitled to hit me when I challenged his behavior. No more. The next morning, I got up at 6 a.m. I went to the kitchen, and I made breakfast. But what I served Eugene wasn't just eggs and bacon. It was a message, a lesson, a turning point that would change both our lives forever. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling. Stop protecting someone from consequences. Stop sacrificing yourself to maintain peace. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is serve the truth, even when it's hard to swallow. Before I continue, kindly subscribe now. Hit that like button and turn on NOTIFICTONS. Drop a comment. What should Bessie have done differently? Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, Australia? Let me know. I woke up at 6 a.m., just like I had every morning for 40 years. My face still throbbed from where Eugene had hit me. My lip was swollen. There was a dark bruise forming on my cheek. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. 68 years old, bruised, exhausted, living in fear in my own home. This wasn't who I'd meant to become. This wasn't the life I'd envisioned when I'd promised 5-year-old Eugene that I'd take care of him. But somewhere along the way, taking care of him had become allowing him to take advantage of me. And now, 40 years later, I was standing in my bathroom with a swollen face, wondering how I'd let things get this bad. I got dressed slowly. Then I went to the kitchen to make breakfast. I opened the refrigerator and looked at the food inside. Food I'd bought with my pension money. Food that Eugene ate without contributing a single dollar. I pulled out eggs, bacon, bread, butter. I set them on the counter. Then I pulled out something else. A folder I'd prepared the night before, after Eugene had gone to bed. A folder filled with papers I'd been collecting for months. I'd known, deep down, that things couldn't continue like this. I'd known something had to change, but I'd been too scared to act, too worried about hurting Eugene's feelings, too afraid of confrontation. But after last night, after my own son hit me, I wasn't scared anymore. I was done. I cooked the eggs slowly, scrambled the way Eugene liked them. I cooked the bacon until it was crispy. I made toast with butter. I set the plate on the table, Eugene's usual spot. Then I placed the folder next to the plate. And I waited. At 7:30, I heard Eugene's bedroom door open. I heard him shuffle down the hallway to the bathroom. I heard the toilet flush, the sink run. Then he came into the kitchen. Eugene looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot. His hair was messy. He was wearing the same clothes he'd slept in. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge the bruise on my face, didn't apologize for hitting me the night before. He just walked to the table, saw the breakfast waiting for him, and sat down. "About time," Eugene muttered. "I'm starving." He picked up his fork and was about to eat when he noticed the folder next to his plate. "What's this?" Eugene asked, irritation in his voice. "Open it," I said calmly. "Ma, I'm trying to eat," Eugene complained. "Open it," I repeated, my voice firm. Eugene sighed dramatically, as if I was being unreasonable. He set down his fork and opened the folder. Inside were documents, lots of documents. The first page was a printed spreadsheet I'd created. It showed every dollar I'd spent on Eugene over the past 3 years. Groceries, utilities, household supplies, even the gas money I'd given him temporarily that he'd never paid back. The total, $47,820. Eugene stared at the number, his expression shifting from annoyance to confusion. "What is this?" Eugene asked. "That's how much you owe me," I said calmly. "For the past 3 years of living in my house rent-free, eating food I buy, using utilities I pay for, and taking money I've given you." "What are you talking about?" Eugene said defensively. "I'm your son. You don't charge your son rent." "I didn't charge you rent," I corrected, "but that doesn't mean the costs disappeared. I've been covering all your expenses for 3 years. That spreadsheet shows exactly what those expenses were." "This is ridiculous," Eugene started. "Keep looking," I interrupted. Eugene flipped to the next page. It was a copy of my bank statements from the past 3 years, showing my pension and Social Security deposits and how much I'd been spending each month. The numbers told a clear story. I'd been spending more than I earned, depleting my savings to support Eugene. "You've cost me $12,000 of my retirement savings," I said. "Money I'd saved over 40 years of working 2 jobs. Money I was supposed to use for my old age. It's almost gone because I've been supporting you." Eugene's face flushed. "I didn't ask you to do that." "You didn't have to ask," I said. You assumed. You assumed I'd feed you, house you, and support you, all without contributing anything." "I'm looking for work," Eugene protested. "Are you?" I asked. I pulled another document from the folder, a printout of Eugene's online activity. I'd checked the browser history on the computer we shared. "According to this, you've applied to exactly 3 jobs in the past 6 months. 3. And you spend an average of 6 hours a day on social media, watching videos and playing games. Eugene's face went from red to pale. You're spying on me. I'm documenting facts, I said. Because you've been lying to me about looking for work. You've been lying about trying to improve your situation. And I've been enabling those lies by not holding you accountable. I can't believe you're doing this, Eugene said, his voice rising. Keep reading, I said calmly. Eugene flipped through more pages, each one more damning than the last. There was a page showing his employment history. 9 jobs in 20 years, none lasting more than 18 months. Each one ending with excuses about why it wasn't his fault. There was a page showing his rental history. 3 evictions for non-payment, each time him calling me to bail him out financially. There was a page showing his relationship history. 7 significant relationships, each one ending with him blaming the woman for being crazy, demanding, or disrespectful. Why are you showing me this? Eugene demanded, his hands shaking now. Whether from anger or shame, I couldn't tell. Because you need to see the pattern, I said. For 20 years, you've blamed everyone else for your problems. Bad bosses, crazy girlfriends, an unfair world. But Eugene, the common factor in all these failures is you. That's not fair, Eugene shouted. It's completely fair, I said firmly. You're 43 years old. You haven't held a job for more than a year and a half. You've been evicted 3 times. You can't maintain a relationship. And for the past 3 years, you've been living off your elderly mother while contributing nothing. I've had bad luck, Eugene insisted. It's not luck, Eugene, I said. It's choices. You choose not to show up for work on time. You choose to argue with bosses instead of learning from them. You choose to blame other people instead of taking responsibility. And I've enabled those choices, I continued. Every time something went wrong, I rescued you. I gave you money. I let you move in. I made excuses for you. I protected you from consequences. But last night, I said, pointing to the bruise on my face, you hit me, your own mother, the woman who sacrificed everything for you. And this morning, you didn't even apologize. You came to breakfast expecting to be served like you always do. Eugene stared at me, his face a mixture of shame and defiance. So here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out the final document from the folder. The final document was a typed letter. I'd spent hours on it the night before, choosing every word carefully. Read this out loud, I instructed Eugene. Ma, I'm not, Eugene started. Read it, I said, my voice harder than I'd ever used with him before. Out loud. Eugene picked up the letter with shaking hands and began reading. I, Eugene Thompson, acknowledge the following truths. 1. I am 43 years old and capable of supporting myself. 2. I have been living in my mother's house for 3 years without paying rent or contributing to household expenses. 3. I have cost my mother $47,820 over the past 3 years, depleting her retirement savings. 4. I have not been actively looking for employment despite claiming otherwise. 5. My pattern of job loss, evictions, and failed relationships is the result of my own choices and behavior, not bad luck or other people's failings. 6. Last night, I physically assaulted my mother by hitting her in the face during an argument about dinner. 7. I have been disrespectful, entitled, and abusive toward the woman who sacrificed everything to raise me alone. Eugene's voice cracked as he read the last sentence. He stopped reading and looked up at me. There's more, I said. Keep reading. Eugene swallowed hard and continued. I agree to the following terms, effective immediately. 1. I will find employment within 30 days. Any job. If I cannot find employment in my preferred field, I will take whatever work is available, retail, food service, manual labor, to start supporting myself. 2. Once employed, I will pay my mother $400 per month in rent, plus contribute $200 per month toward groceries and utilities. 3. I will attend anger management counseling to address my violent behavior. 4. I will do my share of household chores without being asked, including dishes, laundry, yard work, and cleaning. 5. I will treat my mother with respect. No more demanding, ordering, or speaking to her disrespectfully. 6. If I violate any of these terms, I agree to move out of my mother's house immediately, with no financial assistance. I sign this agreement of my own free will, understanding that these are reasonable expectations for a grown man living in someone else's home. There was a signature line at the bottom. Eugene finished reading and stared at the paper in silence. "You want me to sign this?" Eugene finally asked, his voice quiet. "Yes," I said. "And if I don't?" Eugene challenged, some of his defiance returning. "Then you leave," I said simply. "Today, right now, pack your bags and find somewhere else to live." "You'd kick out your own son?" Eugene asked, his voice rising again. "I'd stop enabling my 43-year-old son to continue behaving like an entitled teenager," I corrected. "Eugene, I love you. I will always love you. But love doesn't mean allowing you to disrespect me, hit me, and take advantage of me." "You're choosing to do this now," Eugene said bitterly. "After last night, you're using that against me." "I'm not using anything against you," I said. "I'm establishing boundaries that should have existed years ago. Boundaries I failed to set because I was too focused on protecting you instead of teaching you." "This is blackmail," Eugene accused. "No," I said firmly. "Blackmail would be threatening to tell people you hit me unless you pay me money. This is accountability. These are consequences. These are the terms of continuing to live in my house." "So you're giving me an ultimatum," Eugene said. "Yes," I confirmed. "Sign the agreement and commit to changing your behavior, or leave today and figure out your life on your own." Eugene stared at the paper for a long moment. I could see him processing, struggling between his pride and his comfort. Because leaving meant facing the real world without his mother to rescue him, and that terrified him. "I need time to think about it," Eugene said. "You have until this breakfast gets cold," I said, glancing at the now lukewarm eggs and bacon. "Because Eugene, I'm done waiting. I'm done making excuses. I'm done enabling. You make a choice right now, change or leave." Eugene sat there staring at the agreement at the breakfast at me. His hands were shaking. His jaw was clenched. And then, suddenly, he broke. "I can't do this," Eugene said, his voice cracking. "I can't make it on my own." "Yes, you can," I said gently. "You just haven't had to because I've always done it for you." "No," Eugene said, tears forming in his eyes. "Ma, you don't understand. I'm not like you. I'm not strong like you. I can't work 2 jobs and sacrifice and struggle like you did." "You've never had to," I pointed out. "Because I made sure you wouldn't have to, but Eugene, that wasn't helping you. That was crippling you." "I'm a failure," Eugene said, the words tumbling out now through tears. "I'm 43 years old and I'm a complete failure. I can't keep a job, I can't keep a relationship, I can't even support myself. What's wrong with me?" This was the moment I'd been unconsciously dreading for years. The moment Eugene would have to face the truth about himself. The moment the protective bubble I'd built around him would finally burst. But it was also the moment that could save him. "There's nothing wrong with you," I said softly, "but there's something wrong with how you've been living. And Eugene, I'm partly responsible for that. I taught you that someone would always rescue you, that consequences didn't apply to you, that your needs came before everyone else's." "I thought I was being a good mother," I continued, my own tears starting now. "But I wasn't. Good mothers teach their children to be independent, responsible adults. I just taught you to be dependent on me." "So what do I do?" Eugene asked, wiping his eyes. "How do I fix this?" "You sign that paper," I said, pointing to the agreement. "And then you actually do what it says. You find work, you contribute, you take responsibility, you change." "What if I can't?" Eugene asked, fear clear in his voice. "Then you fail," I said honestly. "And you face the consequences of that failure. And maybe that failure teaches you something that success never could." "But Ma," Eugene said desperately, "what if I sign this and I still mess up? What if I can't find a job in 30 days? What if I try and still fail?" "Then we'll deal with that when it happens," I said. But Eugene, trying and failing is different from not trying at all. For the past 3 years, you haven't really been trying. You've been coasting, assuming I'd support you indefinitely. I'm scared, Eugene admitted quietly. I know, I said. Change is scary. Taking responsibility is scary. But Eugene, hitting your mother should scare you more. Because that's where this path leads if nothing changes, to you becoming someone who hurts the people who love you. Eugene looked at the bruise on my face, really looked at it for the first time since he'd hit me. I'm sorry, Eugene whispered. Ma, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. I was so angry and I know, I said. But Eugene, being sorry isn't enough. You need to change. And I need to stop making it easy for you not to change. Eugene picked up the pen I'd placed next to the agreement. His hand hovered over the signature line. If I sign this, Eugene asked, will things be different between us? Yes, I said honestly. They have to be. I can't keep being the mother who rescues you and enables you. I need to be the mother who holds you accountable and helps you become the man you're capable of being. What if I don't like that version of you? Eugene asked. Then you leave, I said simply. But Eugene, the version of me that's been enabling you for 40 years got us here, to a place where you felt entitled to hit me. So that version needs to change too. Eugene stared at the pen, at the paper, at his cold breakfast. Then he took a deep breath and signed his name. I took the signed agreement and placed it carefully back in the folder. Your breakfast is cold, I said. I can warm it up if you want. No, Eugene said quietly. I'm not hungry anymore. Okay, I said. Then let's talk about next steps. Next steps, Eugene asked. You signed an agreement, I said. Now we need to figure out how you're going to fulfill it, starting with finding employment within 30 days. I don't even know where to start, Eugene admitted. Yes, you do, I said. You start by applying to every job you're qualified for. And if that doesn't work, you apply to jobs you're overqualified for. And if that doesn't work, you take whatever work you can get to start earning money. But I have standards, Eugene started. Your standards led you to unemployment and homelessness, I interrupted gently. Maybe it's time to adjust your standards to match your reality. Eugene winced but nodded. I'll help you, I said. I'll help you write your resume. I'll help you search for jobs. I'll give you advice. But Eugene, I won't do it for you. And I won't make excuses if you don't put in the effort. Okay, Eugene said quietly. And the anger management counseling, I continued. That starts immediately. I've already found a counselor who works on a sliding scale based on income. Your first appointment is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Tomorrow, Eugene protested. That's so soon. Eugene, you hit me last night, I said firmly. There's no too soon about addressing that. You go tomorrow, no negotiation. Fine, Eugene agreed reluctantly. And one more thing, I said. The disrespect stops now. No more demanding tone, no more ordering me around. No more acting like my job is to serve you. If you want something, you ask politely. If I can't or won't do it, you accept that without argument. Understood. Understood, Eugene said. We sat in silence for a moment. The kitchen felt different somehow. The power dynamic had shifted. For the first time in 40 years, I wasn't just Eugene's mother who sacrificed everything for him. I was also a woman with boundaries, expectations, and self-respect. Ma, Eugene said quietly, thank you. For what? I asked. For not kicking me out, Eugene said. For giving me a chance to change. You're welcome, I said. But Eugene, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for both of us. Because the way things were going, we were heading toward complete destruction. This is me trying to save us both. I'll try, Eugene promised. I'll really try this time. I hope so, I said. Because Eugene, this is your last chance. If you violate this agreement, I will put you out. And I won't rescue you again. You'll have to figure it out on your own. I understand, Eugene said. Good, I said, standing up. Now you need to clean up this kitchen, all of it. Dishes, counters, floor, that's your first household chore. Eugene looked surprised but nodded. Okay. I left him there in the kitchen and went to my room. I closed the door, sat on my bed, and finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding in. Relief, fear, sadness, hope. I'd done it. I'd drawn a line. I'd established boundaries. I'd stopped enabling. But would it work? Would Eugene actually change? Or would this blow up in my face? I didn't know. But for the first time in 40 years, I felt like I'd done the right thing. Not the easy thing, not the comfortable thing, but the right thing. And that breakfast, that simple meal with a folder of documents beside it, had been the moment everything changed. Now we'd see if the change would last. The first week after Eugene signed the agreement was the hardest week of both our lives. Eugene started looking for jobs immediately. I'd given him a deadline, 30 days to find employment, and for the first time in years, I actually saw him trying. He spent hours on the computer updating his resume. He applied to dozens of positions: retail, warehouses, delivery services, customer service. He didn't limit himself to management positions like he had before. He applied to everything. But he also struggled. Years of entitlement and excuses had created habits that were hard to break. On the third day after signing the agreement, I woke up at 6 a.m. and went to make breakfast. Eugene was still in bed. At 7 a.m., I finished eating and started washing dishes. Eugene was still in bed. At 8 a.m., I was getting ready to go to my doctor's appointment. Eugene's bedroom door was still closed. I knocked on his door. Eugene, it's 8 o'clock, I called. You should be up looking for work. I'm tired, Ma. Eugene's muffled voice came through the door. I'll get up in an hour. No, I said firmly. You'll get up now. You signed an agreement that said you'd actively look for work. Sleeping until noon isn't actively looking. I applied to like 20 jobs yesterday, Eugene protested. I'm exhausted. Then you'll be exhausted while looking for work, I said. Get up, Eugene, now. There was a long pause. Then I heard movement. Eugene emerged from his room 10 minutes later, looking resentful but awake. Happy now? Eugene asked sarcastically. I'm not looking for you to make me happy, I said calmly. I'm looking for you to fulfill the agreement you signed. Part of that is treating this job search like it's your actual job. That means being up, dressed, and working on it by 8 a.m. every day. That's ridiculous, Eugene muttered. No, I corrected. What's ridiculous is a 43-year-old man sleeping until noon while his elderly mother pays all his bills. What I'm asking is reasonable. Eugene didn't argue further, but I could see the resentment in his eyes. He'd signed the agreement, but he hadn't yet fully accepted what it meant, that his comfortable life of being taken care of was over. Eugene's first anger management counseling session was on day 4. He didn't want to go. I don't need counseling, Eugene said that morning. I just lost my temper once. It's not a pattern. You hit your mother, I said flatly. That's not losing your temper. That's assault. And it is a pattern. You've been aggressive and intimidating for months. The hitting was just the culmination. So you're calling me an abuser now? Eugene asked defensively. I'm calling you someone who needs help managing anger, I said. And according to the agreement you signed, you're going to that appointment today at 2 p.m. And if I don't, Eugene challenged. Then you leave, I said simply. Those were the terms. Eugene stared at me for a long moment, clearly testing whether I meant it. When he saw that I did, he backed down. Fine, Eugene muttered. I'll go. He went to the appointment. When he came back 2 hours later, he was quiet, more subdued than usual. How did it go? I asked. It was fine, Eugene said shortly, heading toward his room. Eugene, I called after him. We agreed to open communication. That means telling me how the session went. Eugene turned back, irritation clear on his face, but he answered. The counselor asked me about what happened, Eugene said. About why I hit you. I told her you were being disrespectful, that you were pushing my buttons. And what did she say? I asked. She said there's no excuse for violence, Eugene admitted. That even if I felt disrespected, hitting you was wrong. She said I need to learn better ways to handle frustration. Do you agree with her? I asked. Eugene hesitated. I guess. Eugene, do you understand that what you did was wrong? I pressed. Not just I guess or maybe. Do you actually understand that hitting me was completely unacceptable? Yes, Eugene finally said, not meeting my eyes. I understand it was wrong, I shouldn't have done it. Good, I said. That's progress. When's your next session? Next week, Eugene said. Same time. Okay, I said. And Eugene, I'm proud of you for going. I know it wasn't easy. Eugene looked surprised by the praise. He nodded slightly and went to his room. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. By the end of the first week, Eugene had 3 job interviews scheduled. I was cautiously optimistic. The first interview was for a warehouse position, loading and unloading trucks, inventory management. The pay was modest but decent, $16 per hour full-time. Eugene came back from the interview looking discouraged. How did it go? I asked. They said they'd let me know, Eugene said, but I don't think I got it. Why not? I asked. The manager kept asking about my work history, Eugene explained. Why I've had so many different jobs. Why none of them lasted more than a year or 2. I tried to explain, but I could tell he didn't believe me. What did you tell him? I asked. That I'd had personality conflicts with previous supervisors, Eugene said. That some workplaces were toxic, that I was looking for a better fit. Eugene, I said gently, those are excuses. Employers don't want to hear excuses. They want to hear accountability. What should I have said? Eugene asked defensively. The truth, I said. That you've struggled with authority and workplace expectations in the past, but you're working on those issues with a counselor. That you're committed to being a reliable, long-term employee. That you understand your previous pattern needs to change. That makes me sound like I have problems, Eugene protested. You do have problems, I said bluntly. Everyone does. What matters is whether you acknowledge them and work on them. Employers respect honesty and self-awareness. They don't respect excuses and blame shifting. Eugene looked frustrated but thoughtful. Okay, I'll try that approach at the next interview. The second interview was for a delivery driver position. Eugene came back more positive. I think that one went better, Eugene said. The manager seemed to like me. He said he appreciated that I was honest about my work history and that I'm getting counseling. Good, I said. See, honesty works. He said he'd call by the end of the week if they want to move forward, Eugene added. Then we wait, I said. In the meantime, keep applying to other positions. Don't put all your hopes on one possibility. The third interview was for a retail position at a home improvement store. Eugene returned looking uncertain. They offered me the job, Eugene announced. That's wonderful, I said. When do you start? That's the thing, Eugene said. It's only part-time, 25 hours a week, $14 an hour. That's only about $350 a week before taxes. That's $1,400 a month, I calculated. Enough to cover the rent and groceries you agreed to contribute, with some left over. But it's not enough to save money for my own place, Eugene protested. And it's part-time. It's not even a real job. It's a real job, I corrected. It's honest work that pays money. And Eugene, you have 27 days left on your deadline to find employment. This offer is the only one you have. Are you really going to turn it down? I just thought I'd get something better, Eugene said. Better might come later, I said. But right now you need something. And this is something. Take the job, Eugene. Get your foot in the door, prove you're reliable, build a work history. Then you can look for something better. Eugene looked unhappy but nodded. Okay, I'll take it. Good, I said. When do you start? Monday, Eugene said. They want me for the morning shift, 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., 5 days a week. Then you'll need to adjust your sleep schedule, I said. That means going to bed earlier and getting up earlier. I know, Ma, Eugene said with exasperation. I'm not a child. Then stop acting like one and start acting like an adult with a job, I said firmly. Eugene left the room without responding, but the next day, he accepted the position. He'd start work in 4 days. While the job situation was slowly improving, the household chores became another battleground. According to the agreement, Eugene was supposed to do his share of household work without being asked. That included dishes, laundry, yard work, and general cleaning. The first week, I had to remind him constantly. Eugene, the dishes need to be done. Eugene, your laundry is piling up in the bathroom. Eugene, the grass needs mowing. Each time he'd respond with, I'll do it later, or I was just about to do that. But later often meant I'd end up doing it myself because I couldn't stand the mess. On day 8, I decided to stop reminding him. The dishes piled up in the sink for 2 days. Eugene used dishes, left them dirty, and used more dishes. On day 3 of the dish strike, Eugene came to me. Ma, we're out of clean plates, Eugene said. Then wash the dirty ones, I said, not looking up from my book. I thought you were going to do dishes, Eugene said. Why would you think that? I asked. Because you always do them, Eugene said. Not anymore, I said. According to the agreement you signed, you're responsible for doing your share of household chores. Dishes are part of that. If you want clean plates, wash them yourself. But there are like 3 days of dishes in there, Eugene protested. Yes, I agreed. Because you've been using dishes for 3 days without washing them. That's your responsibility, not mine. This is ridiculous, Eugene muttered, but he went to the kitchen. An hour later, all the dishes were washed. The same thing happened with laundry. His dirty clothes piled up for a week before he ran out of clean underwear. Then, suddenly, he figured out how to use the washing machine. The yard work took longer. I let the grass grow for 2 weeks, longer than I was comfortable with, but I was making a point. Finally, on a Saturday, Eugene mowed the lawn without being asked. I mowed the lawn, Eugene announced afterward, as if expecting praise. Thank you, I said simply. That's what people do when they live in a house, they maintain it. You could at least act grateful, Eugene said. I am grateful, I said. But Eugene, you don't get extra credit for doing basic adult responsibilities. Mowing the lawn isn't a favor you're doing for me. It's your obligation as someone living here. Eugene looked frustrated, but didn't argue further. Slowly, painfully, he was learning that the world didn't revolve around him, that other people weren't going to do everything for him, that being an adult meant taking care of yourself and your environment. But the learning wasn't smooth. There were setbacks. On day 12, I came home from church to find Eugene on the couch playing video games. The kitchen was a mess, dishes in the sink, food on the counter, crumbs on the floor. I'd specifically asked Eugene that morning to clean the kitchen while I was gone. He'd agreed. Eugene, what happened to cleaning the kitchen? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I'll do it later, Eugene said, not taking his eyes off the video game. You said you'd do it while I was at church, I reminded him. I was gone for 3 hours. You had time. I got busy, Eugene said. Busy playing video games, I asked, my patience wearing thin. I needed a break, Eugene defended. I've been job hunting all week. I'm stressed. Everyone is stressed, Eugene, I said. That doesn't mean we abandon our responsibilities. I said I'll do it later, Eugene snapped, his voice rising. Why are you always on my back? Because you agreed to do your share, I said firmly. And you're not doing it. You're sitting here playing games while I'm doing everything else. You're not doing everything, Eugene shouted, standing up now. I've been applying to jobs. I took that retail position. I went to counseling. I'm trying. Trying means actually following through, I said, not just doing the bare minimum when it suits you. Nothing I do is good enough for you, Eugene yelled, and I saw that dangerous rage building in his eyes again, the same rage that had led him to hit me 2 weeks ago. Eugene, I said quietly but firmly, you need to calm down right now. Don't tell me to calm down, Eugene shouted, stepping toward me. I held my ground, even though my heart was racing. If you raise your hand to me again, this is over. You will be out of this house today. Do you understand? Eugene stopped. For a moment, he looked like he might actually hit me again, but then something shifted in his face. Fear, maybe, or realization. He turned away, breathing heavily. I'm not going to hit you. Good, I said, because I meant what I said. One more incident of violence or aggression and you're done here. I know, Eugene said quietly. Now I'm going to my room, I said. When I come out in an hour, that kitchen better be clean. Not I'll do it later. Clean, understood. Understood, Eugene muttered. I went to my room and closed the door. My hands were shaking. I'd stood up to him again, but it had been terrifying, because I'd seen that rage in his eyes, and I'd known he was capable of violence. An hour later, I emerged from my room. The kitchen was spotless, dishes washed, counters wiped, floors swept. Eugene was in his room with the door closed. I made dinner. At dinner time, I called Eugene. He emerged looking subdued. I'm sorry, Eugene said quietly. For yelling, for getting aggressive, I didn't mean to scare you. But you did scare me, I said honestly. Because I've already seen what you're capable of when you're angry. And Eugene, if it happens again, if you become aggressive or violent one more time, our agreement is void. You leave immediately. I know, Eugene said. I'm going to talk to my counselor about it next week, about the anger, about why I get so mad when you hold me accountable. Good, I said. That's the right approach. We ate dinner in uncomfortable silence, but at least we ate together, and at least Eugene was starting to recognize his own patterns. Eugene's first day at the home improvement store was on Monday of week 3. He had to be there at 6 a.m., which meant waking up at 5. I heard his alarm go off, then I heard him hit snooze. 5 minutes later, I knocked on his door. Eugene, you need to get up, I called. First day of work. I'm up, Eugene called back groggily. 10 minutes later, I heard movement. Eugene emerged from his room looking exhausted. I made coffee, I said, and there's toast if you want it. Thanks, Eugene mumbled, pouring himself a cup. Are you nervous? I asked. A little, Eugene admitted. It's been a while since I had a first day. You'll be fine, I encouraged. Show up on time, be respectful, do what they ask. That's all any employer expects on the first day. Eugene nodded and finished his coffee. At 5:30, he left for work. I spent the morning wondering how it was going. Would he last the full day? Would he get frustrated and quit? Would he come home with excuses about why the job wasn't right for him? At noon, Eugene returned home. His shift had ended at 11, but he'd stayed to talk with his manager about scheduling. How was it? I asked anxiously. It was actually okay, Eugene said, sounding surprised. The work isn't hard, stocking shelves, helping customers find things, cleaning up. The people seem nice. The manager said I did well. That's wonderful, I said, relief flooding through me. I mean, it's not exciting, Eugene continued. And the pay is low, but it's not terrible. I can do this. I'm proud of you, I said. Eugene looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years, something like hope mixed with vulnerability. Thanks, Ma, Eugene said, for not giving up on me, for pushing me even when I didn't want to be pushed. You're welcome, I said. But Eugene, I didn't do this for you. I did it for both of us. Because the way things were going, we were both miserable. I know, Eugene said, and I'm starting to understand that. The first week of work went well. Eugene showed up on time every day. He didn't complain excessively. He seemed to be actually trying. At the end of the week, he brought home his first paycheck, $385 after taxes for 25 hours of work. He handed me $400 in cash. What's this? I asked. Rent and groceries, Eugene said. Like the agreement says, $400 a month. This is for the first month. I took the money, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope that Eugene might actually change. Thank you, I said. This means a lot. I'm not done, Eugene said. The agreement also says I need to pay you back for the past 3 years, almost $48,000. I can't pay that all at once, but I want to start. So here's an extra $50 toward that debt. He handed me another bill. I felt tears forming. This was the Eugene I'd hoped he'd become, responsible, accountable, trying to make amends. Eugene, you don't have to, I started. Yes, I do, Eugene interrupted. You were right, Ma, I owe you, not just money but respect, acknowledgement of what you've sacrificed for me. I can't pay back $48,000 quickly, but I can chip away at it. $50 a paycheck. It'll take years, but at least it's something. Thank you, I said, unable to say more without breaking down completely. Eugene went to his room, and I sat at the kitchen table, holding the $450 he'd given me, crying tears of relief and hope. Maybe, just maybe, that breakfast 3 weeks ago had actually changed our lives. 6 months had passed since the morning I'd served Eugene breakfast with that folder of documents. 6 months since my son had signed an agreement that would change both our lives. I sat in my living room on a Saturday afternoon, watching Eugene mow the lawn without being asked, and reflected on how far we'd both come. But the journey to this moment hadn't been smooth. There had been setbacks, struggles, and moments when I'd wondered if Eugene would ever truly change. The first major test came in Eugene's second month of working at the home improvement store. His manager, Clyde Jenkins, had asked Eugene to work a Saturday shift. Eugene normally had Saturdays off, and he'd already made plans to watch a football game with some guys he'd reconnected with from high school. I can't work Saturday, Eugene told Clyde. I have plans. I understand, Clyde said, but we're short-staffed this weekend, and I need someone reliable. You've been doing great work, Eugene. I was hoping I could count on you. Eugene came home that evening frustrated. My manager wants me to work Saturday, Eugene complained. But I already have plans, I told him no. Eugene, I said carefully, this is exactly the kind of situation you used to fail at. What do you mean? Eugene asked defensively. You used to prioritize what you wanted over what your job needed, I explained. That's why you got fired so many times. Employers need people they can count on when things get difficult. But I have the right to say no, Eugene protested. It's my day off. You do have the right to say no, I agreed. But that decision has consequences. If your manager sees you as someone who won't help out when needed, you won't advance. You might not even keep the job long-term. So I'm supposed to give up everything for some minimum wage job? Eugene asked bitterly. No, I said, but you're supposed to show reliability, especially in a new job where you're still proving yourself. Eugene was silent for a moment, processing. What should I do? Eugene finally asked. That's your decision, I said. I can't make it for you, but I can tell you that every choice has consequences. You need to decide what matters more, watching a football game with friends or building a reputation as someone dependable. Eugene thought about it overnight. The next morning, he called his manager. Mr. Jenkins, I've thought about Saturday, Eugene said on the phone. I can work that shift if you still need me. When Eugene hung up, he looked at me. I rescheduled with my friends. We'll watch the game next week. I'm proud of you, I said. That was a mature decision. It sucked making it, Eugene admitted. But I remembered what you said, that I used to prioritize what I wanted over what was needed. I don't want to be that person anymore. That Saturday, Eugene worked his shift, and the following Monday, Clyde pulled him aside. Eugene, I appreciate you coming in Saturday, Clyde said. That showed me something. You're not just here for a paycheck, you're actually committed. I'm putting you on track for full-time hours if you want them. Eugene came home that day beaming. Full-time, Eugene announced. 40 hours a week instead of 25. That's almost $600 a week after taxes. That's wonderful, I said. See, one good decision led to an opportunity. Yeah, Eugene said thoughtfully. I'm starting to see that. By month 3, Eugene had been attending anger management counseling every week. At first, he'd gone reluctantly, just fulfilling the agreement. but something shifted around week 10. Eugene came home from a session looking thoughtful, more contemplative than I'd seen him in years. "How was counseling?" I asked. "The counselor asked me something today," Eugene said slowly. "She asked me when I stopped being happy." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "I didn't have an answer at first," Eugene admitted. "But then I realized I've been unhappy for years, maybe decades. I've been angry and bitter and blaming everyone else, but underneath all that, I've just been miserable." "Why do you think that is?" I asked gently. "Because I never grew up," Eugene said. "I'm 43 years old and I've been living like a teenager. No real responsibilities, no real accomplishments, just coasting along, expecting other people, expecting you to take care of me." "And that made you unhappy?" I asked. "Yeah," Eugene said. "Because deep down, I knew I was a disappointment. I knew I wasn't living up to my potential. But instead of changing, I just got angrier. At you, at my bosses, at my girlfriends, at the whole world." "But really," Eugene continued, "I was angry at myself, I just couldn't admit it." "That's a profound realization," I said. "My counselor said something else," Eugene added. "She said that the moment I hit you was the moment I became the thing I was most afraid of, someone who hurts the people who love them, someone worthless." Eugene's voice cracked on that last word. "Ma, I'm so sorry. Not just for hitting you, but for all of it. For 40 years of being a burden instead of a blessing. For taking and never giving back. For treating you like you existed just to serve me," Eugene concluded, tears streaming down his face now. "You deserved so much better than the son I've been." I went to him and hugged him, something I hadn't done since before he'd hit me. "You're right," I said honestly. "I did deserve better. But Eugene, you can still become the son I hoped you'd be. Not the one I enabled and protected, but the one who stands on his own, who takes responsibility, who treats people with respect." "I'm trying," Eugene said. "I'm really trying, Ma." "I know," I said, "and I see the effort. That matters." That night marked a turning point. After that conversation, Eugene seemed different, less defensive, more self-aware, genuinely committed to change rather than just going through the motions. In month 4, Eugene met someone. Her name was Cora Williams, and she worked at the bank where Eugene had opened an account for his paychecks. They'd struck up a conversation, exchanged numbers, and started talking. Eugene came to me for advice for the first time in years. "Ma, I like this woman," Eugene said, "but I'm scared to mess it up like I've messed up every other relationship." "What do you think you did wrong in past relationships?" I asked. Eugene thought for a moment. "I was selfish. I expected them to take care of me like you did. And when they didn't, I got angry and blamed them for being demanding or high maintenance." "That's very self-aware," I said. "So how do I not do that with Cora?" Eugene asked. "By being the person you're becoming, not the person you were," I said. "Treat her as an equal partner, not a substitute mother. Contribute to the relationship instead of just taking from it. Respect her boundaries and needs." "And if I feel myself falling into old patterns?" Eugene asked. "Then you talk to your counselor about it," I said. "Or you talk to me, but don't hide it. Don't pretend. Be honest about your struggles." Eugene took my advice. He started dating Cora slowly, carefully. And he talked to me about the relationship, asking advice, processing his feelings, checking his own behavior. One evening, Eugene came home from a date looking troubled. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Cora told me she's not ready to let me move in with her," Eugene explained. "We've been dating for 6 weeks, and I suggested we could save money by living together. She said it was too soon." "And how did you react?" I asked. "I wanted to get mad," Eugene admitted. "My first instinct was to think she doesn't trust me or she's being unreasonable. But then I remembered what you said about respecting boundaries." "So what did you do?" I asked. "I told her I understood," Eugene said, "that we could keep dating and revisit the idea later, that I respected her decision." "How did that feel?" I asked. "Hard," Eugene admitted, "but also good, like I'd done the right thing even though it wasn't what I wanted." That's called emotional maturity, I said. Being able to accept disappointment without lashing out. That's huge growth, Eugene. I'm learning, Eugene said. Slowly, but I'm learning. Cora and Eugene continued dating. And for the first time in his life, Eugene had a relationship that lasted more than a few months. Not because he'd found the perfect woman, but because he'd started being a better partner. In month 5, Eugene got a promotion at work. Clyde called him into the office and offered him a full-time position as a department supervisor. The pay was $19 an hour, a significant increase from the $14 he'd been making. You've been our most reliable employee for the past 5 months, Clyde told Eugene. You show up on time, you work hard, you help other employees, you don't complain. I'd like to promote you to supervise the stocking crew. Eugene accepted immediately. He came home that day with a mixture of pride and disbelief. I got promoted, Eugene announced. 5 months ago, I couldn't keep any job for more than a year. Now I'm getting promoted. You earned it, I said. By showing up, by being reliable, by changing your attitude. It feels weird, Eugene admitted. Feeling proud of myself, I haven't felt this way in, I don't know how long. Get used to it, I said. Because you're going to keep succeeding if you keep doing what you've been doing. With the promotion came more money. Eugene's paychecks jumped to about $760 a week after taxes, over $3,000 a month. The first thing Eugene did was adjust his payments to me. Ma, I want to increase what I'm paying you, Eugene said. Instead of $400 a month for rent and groceries, I'll pay $700. And instead of $50 toward my debt, I'll pay $200. Eugene, you don't have to, I started. Yes, I do, Eugene interrupted. I owe you almost $48,000. At my old rate of $50 a paycheck, it would take me forever to pay that back. At $200 a paycheck, I can pay it back in about 5 years. Plus, Eugene added, you deserve more than $400 a month. That's not even market rate for rent and food. $700 is more fair. Thank you, I said, genuinely moved. This means a lot. You taught me that actions matter more than words, Eugene said. So I'm trying to show you through actions that I've changed, that I appreciate what you've done for me, that I'm trying to make things right. You're succeeding, I said. 6 months after signing the agreement, Eugene approached me with a conversation I'd been hopping for but hadn't wanted to push. Ma, I've been thinking, Eugene began. I'm making good money now. I'm paying off my debt to you. My relationship with Cora is going well. Maybe it's time for me to start looking for my own place. My first instinct was to feel hurt, like he was leaving me after I'd helped him get back on his feet. But I checked that instinct, because that was the old dynamic, me needing Eugene to need me. I think that's a good idea, I said instead. You've proven you can support yourself. Having your own place would be another step toward full independence. I don't want you to think I'm abandoning you, Eugene said quickly. After everything you've done for me, I think it's time. Eugene, you're not abandoning me, I assured him. You're growing up. That's what's supposed to happen. I don't need you to live with me forever. I need you to become a fully independent adult, and you're doing that. But I'll still visit, Eugene promised. And I'll keep paying back what I owe you, and if you ever need anything, I'll be there. I know, I said, and I'll hold you to that. There's something else, Eugene said. Cora and I have been talking about getting a place together. She thinks I'm ready now, that I've changed enough that she'd trust living with me. That's wonderful, I said. That means she sees the same growth I do. But I wanted to ask you first, Eugene continued. Not for permission, I'm a grown man. But for your blessing, I guess. I want to know that you think I'm ready. Do you think you're ready? I asked. Eugene thought about it carefully. Yeah, I do. 6 months ago, I wasn't. I was still entitled and selfish. But I've learned a lot about responsibility, about treating people with respect, about being a partner instead of a burden. Then you have my blessing, I said. Go build your life, Eugene, make me proud. I'll try, Eugene promised. Now, sitting in my living room watching Eugene mow my lawn voluntarily, something he still did every week even though he'd moved into his own apartment with Cora 3 months ago. I reflected on the incredible journey we'd both taken. Eugene finished mowing and came inside, sweaty but satisfied. "Lawn's done," Eugene announced. "You need anything else while I'm here?" "No, thank you," I said, "but stay for lunch if you have time." "I can do that," Eugene said. "Cora's working until 3 anyway." We made sandwiches together and sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd served him that breakfast 1 year ago. "Ma, can I ask you something?" Eugene said as we ate. "Of course." "Why did you do it?" Eugene asked. "The breakfast with all those documents, the ultimatum, why didn't you just kick me out when I hit you?" "Because I loved you," I said simply, "but also because I realized I'd failed you by enabling you for so long. Kicking you out would have just continued that pattern, me protecting you from consequences. The ultimatum was about holding you accountable while still giving you a chance to change." "But what if I hadn't changed?" Eugene asked. "What if I'd refused to sign the agreement or signed it and then violated it?" "Then you would have left," I said honestly. "And I would have let you struggle and hopefully learn from that struggle. It would have broken my heart, but it would have been necessary." "I'm glad it didn't come to that," Eugene said. "Me too," I agreed. "But Eugene, you need to understand something. That breakfast didn't change you. You changed you. I just provided the catalyst and the accountability." "I know," Eugene said. "My counselor says the same thing, that I'm the one doing the work, that you just finally stopped enabling me to avoid doing the work." "She's right," I said. Eugene was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Do you forgive me for hitting you, for all those years of being a terrible son?" "I forgave you months ago," I said, "when I saw that you were genuinely trying to change, when you started taking responsibility instead of making excuses." "But," I added, "forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I'll always remember that night. It was the worst moment of my life, being hit by my own child. But it was also a turning point. It forced me to stop enabling and start holding you accountable." "I wish it hadn't taken me hitting you for that to happen," Eugene said quietly. "Me too," I agreed. "But sometimes people don't change until the consequences become unbearable. For you, almost losing your home and your relationship with me was unbearable. For me, being hit by my son was unbearable. We both reached our breaking points that night." "And now," Eugene asked, "where are we now?" "Now we have a real relationship," I said. "Not based on me sacrificing for you or you taking from me, but based on mutual respect, accountability, and genuine care." "I like this better," Eugene said. "So do I agreed. 1 year after that fateful breakfast, Eugene invited me to dinner at the apartment he shared with Cora. When I arrived, I found the table set beautifully. Eugene and Cora had cooked a full meal: roasted chicken, vegetables, salad, fresh bread. "This is lovely," I said, admiring the effort. "We wanted to do something special," Cora said. "Eugene told me about the anniversary, about the breakfast you made him 1 year ago that changed everything. So we wanted to make you breakfast for dinner," Eugene added, "to say thank you." We sat down to eat. The food was delicious. The conversation was warm and genuine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years when eating with Eugene: complete peace. After dinner, Eugene handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," Eugene said. Inside was a check for $2,600 and a handwritten letter. I read the letter out loud. "Dear Ma, 1 year ago, you served me breakfast with a folder of documents that changed my life. You showed me the truth about who I'd become: a 43-year-old man living off his elderly mother, contributing nothing, treating you terribly, and finally hitting you in anger. That breakfast could have been the end of our relationship. Instead, it was the beginning of a real one. You gave me an ultimatum: change or leave. And instead of what I'd done my whole life, blaming you, making excuses, avoiding responsibility, I chose to change. This past year has been the hardest of my life, learning to work consistently, managing my anger, taking responsibility for my choices, paying my own bills, being a good partner to Cora, becoming an adult instead of an overgrown child. But it's also been the best year of my life, because for the first time, I feel proud of who I am. I feel like I'm building something real. I feel like I'm becoming the man you hoped I'd be. I've been paying you back at $200 per paycheck for the past year. This check is for $2,600, representing 13 months of payments. So far, I've paid you back $6,600 of the $47,820 I owed you. At this rate, it'll take me about 6 more years to pay you back completely. But Ma, I promise you, I will pay back every single dollar, because you deserved better than the son I was for 40 years. And the least I can do is make amends financially. More importantly, I want to keep being better, keep growing, keep showing you through actions that your belief in me wasn't wasted. Thank you for that breakfast. Thank you for the ultimatum. Thank you for refusing to enable me anymore. Thank you for loving me enough to hold me accountable. You didn't just serve me breakfast that morning. You served me truth, accountability, and a path to becoming someone I could respect. That breakfast changed our lives forever, and I'm grateful every single day that it did. I love you, Ma. Your son, Eugene. I finished reading with tears streaming down my face. Eugene, this is beautiful, I managed to say. I meant every word, Eugene said, his own eyes wet. You saved my life, Ma, by refusing to keep enabling me, by demanding better, by believing I could change even when I didn't believe it myself. You saved your own life, I corrected, just like I had a year ago. I just provided the wake-up call. Then thank you for the wake-up call, Eugene said. We hugged, a real, genuine, loving embrace between a mother and son who'd found their way back to each other through the hardest possible journey. Later that night, as I drove home from Eugene's apartment, I thought about the past year and everything it had taught me. I'd learned that sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is stop protecting them from consequences. I'd learned that enabling feels like love, but it's actually a form of harm, keeping someone dependent and preventing their growth. I'd learned that accountability and boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary for healthy relationships. I'd learned that change is possible at any age. Eugene was 43 when he finally grew up. It's never too late. And I'd learned that one moment, one breakfast, one conversation, one ultimatum, can change everything if the person is finally ready to hear it. That morning 1 year ago, I'd served Eugene breakfast with a folder of documents showing him the truth about what he'd become. He'd signed an agreement committing to change. And over the following year, he'd actually done it. Not perfectly, not easily, but genuinely. He'd found work and kept it. He'd gotten promoted. He'd paid back thousands of dollars of debt. He'd learned to manage his anger. He'd built a healthy relationship. He'd moved into his own place. He'd become someone I was proud to call my son. All because I'd finally stopped enabling him and started holding him accountable. My own son had hit me. The next morning, I'd served him breakfast. And that breakfast changed our lives forever. Not because of what was on the plate, but because of what was beside it. Truth, evidence, accountability, and an ultimatum that forced both of us to change. Eugene changed from an entitled man-child into a responsible adult. And I changed from an enabling mother who sacrificed everything into a woman with boundaries and self-respect. We both became better people, and our relationship became real, based on mutual respect rather than resentment and dependence. That's what that breakfast accomplished. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can serve someone isn't comfort, it's truth. What an incredible transformation. Eugene went from hitting his mother to becoming a responsible, respectful man. He got a job, got promoted, moved into his own apartment with his girlfriend Cora, and has paid back $6,600 of the $47,820 he owed. He's committed to paying every dollar back over 6 years. He went from entitled and violent to accountable and grateful. All because Bessie stopped enabling and started demanding accountability. That one breakfast changed everything. This story proves that enabling feels like love but prevents growth. Accountability is an act of true love. Change is possible at any age if someone is ready. Boundaries create healthier relationships. Sometimes the kindest thing is holding people to consequences. One moment of truth can transform entire lives. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories. Smash that like button. Turn on a notification bell for new content. Drop a comment. Have you ever had to set tough boundaries with family? What part of Eugene's transformation inspired you most? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, Australia, Trinidad, India, Philippines? Let me know. Remember, if you're enabling someone's bad behavior because you love them, ask yourself, are you really helping them? Or are you preventing them from growing? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop rescuing someone and let them face the consequences of their choices. That's not cruelty, that's accountability. That's real love. Bessie served Eugene breakfast with truth, and it saved both their lives. May this story inspire you to stop enabling and start empowering the people you love. Thank you for following this powerful journey from violence to transformation, from enabling to accountability, from broken to healed. Until the next story, stay strong, set boundaries, and remember that true love sometimes means holding people accountable.